community of Afro-descended people in the Americas have many heroes we seldom hear about. Heroes such as Gaspar Yanga of Mexico, Ganga Zumba of Brazil, and many more. Their stories exemplify the pursuit of freedom, liberty, and the fight against tyranny, principles we seem to hold dear in the Western world. The absence of these African heroes in popular discourse is precisely why Afro-descended people need to aggregate our knowledge, highlighting the brilliance and majesty of African historical figures. So today, I wanted to speak about one of the most successful formerly enslaved Africans in world history, King Bayano. Animation can be quite expensive, so if you'd like to contribute to the continued production of this kind of content, consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link to Patreon is in the description box below. The role of African men in early Spanish America was surprisingly diverse. Unfortunately, popular narratives frequently highlight the enslaved status of African people despite there being some who discovered different avenues to freedom. African men in particular were able to do this because in the 16th century, Spain had not completely consolidated their power in the Americas. Thus, some Africans were able to acquire varying forms of freedom. One of the ways in which African men accomplished this was by becoming a so-called black conquistador. Most of them were conscripted, but some were able to gain their freedom. Another way was by becoming a pirate, gaining freedom through the open sea. And yet another was escaping to the mountains or countryside, establishing independent maroon settlements, becoming sovereign rulers or kings in their own right. In 16th century Panama, King Bayano became one of those men. He was believed to have been a Mandinka man, or at least from one of the Mande-speaking ethnic groups. In 1552, he was reportedly among 400 enslaved Africans taken to Panama. Fortunately, the ship he was on became shipwrecked off the coast of Panama. He and other Africans were able to escape to the shore. Something was special about Bayano because he quickly became a leader among the men and a formidable opponent for the Spanish, spearheading the largest revolt against Spanish colonial rule in the 16th century. Sources written by Spanish authors described Bayano as a very handsome and strong man who spoke Spanish well. His Spanish opponents assumed that Bayano had been a king or a leader in his homeland, and they called him El Renegro Bayano. His followers treated him with fear and respect, and they may have numbered more than 1,200 people. Bayano established a fortress for his rebel enslaved community in a thickly forested mountainous region on the Atlantic side of Panama. For 5 years, King Bayano frustrated Spanish efforts of control. His political acumen allotted him an allyship with Scottish and English pirates in efforts to mitigate Spanish economic monopolies. Colonial retaliation on King Bayano was of no consolatory utility. He was virtually undefeated in combat, and his fort proved to be extremely difficult to capture. The governor of Panama sent out 3 military expeditions to try and destroy Bayano and his maroon settlement, all of whom were defeated. In the end, Bayano was undone by deceit rather than by combat. The Spanish government ordered Pedro de Ursua to defeat Bayano. Ursua led 40 men to the location and offered Bayano a peace agreement to split Panama into 2 territories, Bayano's independent kingdom and Spanish territory. Warfare is deception, and that was the only weapon capable of defeating King Bayano. The New World African king decided to meet and was captured. His maroon kingdom had finally fallen. Interestingly enough, instead of executing King Bayano, the Spanish chose a different route. In a formal meeting with the Spanish viceroy who lauded him for his tenacity, Bayano signed a peace treaty. His followers were allowed to retain their freedom. Bayano was freed, exiled to Peru, and then to Spain, where he lived in relative comfort due to the wealth he had amassed. Bayano died in Spain, but he remains an important historical figure in Panama, where a dam, a valley, and a river bear his name. Conflicting reports concerning the fate of his followers loom. However, the fate of Bayano is made clear. For one man to build a kingdom with a lack of resources and successfully defend it against a well-organized and funded military force is beyond legendary. The way King Bayano was treated even after his capture says a lot about how much he was respected and testament to how the power of courage alone can at times be a conquering force in and of itself. If you like these animated videos portraying African history, be sure to support its continued development on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.